Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
Hi, it's me, Egbert, E-G-G-B-U-R-T, the owner of this radio station. I invite everyone to listen, no matter if you're young, old, black, white, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, heck, I even want real estate agents listening to my station. Yes, even Rick and Tracy. You're all welcome. Now, it's back to my Goodwill ambassadors, Brad and John.
We're the Goodwill ambassadors, John. We have to keep that positive energy going. Hey, thanks for coming. Hey, is the water okay? We couldn't afford anything else, just water. And it's not out of the bottle. It's out of the tap, but we did put it through one of those Brita pitchers. So it's...
Well, I thought we got it. Wait a minute. I thought we were sourcing everything from Coldwater Creek.
It's right. It is the BJ Show.
You and I turned out just fine. Sorry to step over your promo there, Brad, but you and I turned out just fine, and we drank a lot of stuff and ate a lot of stuff that probably came from Coldwater Creek.
And a lot of people swam in Coldwater Creek. I know several people that swam in Coldwater Creek, but that's a whole other story. Okay, which, once again, it's funny you should bring that up. I had a discussion the other day. Someone's said to me, well, that's all taken care of now. I go, no, it's not. Go over to McDonald about midway between Lindbergh and Airport Road, or 170 or Brown Road, or whatever you want to call it, or where it sort of does, right there in front of the old world headquarters for McDonnell Douglas. And on both sides of McDonald, they are still digging up radioactive and tainted dirt, and I don't know where it's going, but it's not staying here. And I'm like, what is that?
It's going to your now. What you're not admitting here, Brad, is that you use it as topsoil, and you flaunt the fact that by midsummer you will have tomatoes that glow in the dark, and people ask you where you get it, and you say, I can't tell you where I get my topsoil. But I can tell you how I grow these special tomatoes.
You know, we sent something on the air last week, or maybe the week before, I can't remember which one it was, and it got somewhat refuted by the person we're talking about. And I'm saying, if this dude would listen to me, and here, I'm off the top of my head, I'm just going to do a campaign ad for him. Hi, I'm Taylor Burns, and I'm a Swift kind of guy.
But also Burks.
I'm Taylor Burks, Swift, and I'm going to swiftly become your next congressional representative, because I'm the guy who really loves things like Travis Kelce, and I love all sorts of things like Swift concerts. My name is Taylor Burks Swift, and I love politics, and I want you to vote for me.
And think of all the song lyrics. Like he could make so many references to, like, you know, the ballot has a blank space, baby, and you should write my name. Right. You should check my name. Like, there's so much he could do with it.
And what he should start off is one of all his speeches with. He should stand up at the podium and go, woo hoo hoo, woo hoo hoo. Never gonna be another one like me. Woo hoo hoo.
Or he could say, according to Chuck Schumer, he's the problem, it's him.
He shot down my suggestion on Twitter, didn't he?
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what? But then we had a pretty good back and forth, because as Taylor pointed out, he's the reason for the teardrops on your guitar. I mean, it's true. So
I think it's interesting that. Can I say something right now? I don't really. This is. I read this yesterday, and I just sort of rolled my eyes like, oh, here we go. And I'm not making fun of Dr. Bob Onder, because I've met him on several occasions, and he seems like a good guy, and he seems like his heart's in the right place. And he's a brilliant man, because not only is he a doctor, he's also an attorney. And his brother is Jim Onder, the big attorney, and his sister is an attorney as well too. How about that family? Okay.
And he's more likable than the other doctor lawyer, Brad Bradshaw. But go ahead.
Right, nice guy. Okay. Someone needs to talk to him. Because he's saying, you need someone in Congress that cares about you. And I'm going like, here we go again with the same old, when I go to Congress, things will be different. I'll whip those people into shape. And when you're one of 435 people, there ain't much you can do. Let's be honest. There's not much you can do.
Well then, so what you're saying though, Brad, is that, but who's going to vote for somebody that says, listen, I'm going to go I'm gonna go to Congress to be one of 435, and I'll be a reliable vote most of the time. Like, that doesn't get people whipped up. You can't expect Bob Onder to say that.
Here's the problem. What these people need to do is, like, for example, I can't do this with you because maybe I can because you're really sharp and you've probably heard this before. But let me see if I can do it to you. What does TOP spell?
Top.
What does HOP spell?
Hop.
What does MOP spell?
Mop.
What does COP spell?
Cop.
What do you do when you come to a green light?
Go.
Okay, you are one of very few, because what happens is your brain gets lulled into, most people when I do that will say stop. Your brain gets lulled into a certain certain pattern,
yes.
right? Okay. So to become a truly effective communicator, you have to break that pattern, okay? And if you look back at the people who have become truly effective communicators, both in television, radio, and in politics and media, whatever you want to call it nowadays, it's the people who've broken the mold and have come out as unique. Something about them, there's a hook that catches your interest, and it may be good and may be bad. Perfect example, Rush Limbaugh. When Rush Limbaugh came on, used to be, if you listen to a political talk show, it was like boring. It was like
watching paint dry.
Right.
It would be like listening to public radio.
Right. It was and everybody talked like that. It was boring. Rush Limbaugh comes along and as an ex-DJ takes his entertainment skills as a DJ and takes them and turns them into politics and becomes a runaway hit. Comes up with all sorts of crazy things.
Like caller abortions.
Right.
Caller abortions.
Caller abortion for a while. He put a condom on his microphone, I mean, stuff like that. And once again, love him or hate him, you know who the hell he is, okay? I mean, and through the whole thing. So what gets me is, and I guess this was really, really hit home with me. And God, I don't want to sound like I'm being disrespectful, but back in September, I got invited to be a presenter to the Republican, St. Charles County Republican Central Committee about what they called candidate school. And candidate school is typically for people who've never run for office. Some of the people in there are already in office, but typically what they're doing is it's a one-day seminar on how you can get elected and what you can do and stuff like that. And some of the stuff was really good. For example, we had Mr. Summer, who is like incredible. His wife is she's not a state rep anymore, is she?
No, but she was for a while.
Right,
yeah,
she was
Christy
for
Summer.
Right. And he is an accountant, and he just knows this up and down. The whole thing with financing and starting a committee and a bank account and MEC and the whole bit. And that was fascinating. And then there was a guy who is a political consultant, but essentially what they were teaching people was two things: door knocking and yard signs. And I'm the last presenter of the day. I get up there and I'm going like, I'll be honest with you. And I started off my presentation by saying, here are my idols. My idols are Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. You know why? They're all disruptors. They all took a system and they shook it and they changed it and forever changed the world. And I say that's what you need to do for running for office. You need to do what Donald Trump did, where he just blew everybody away because of the fact that he was so different. If you go back and look at those original debates where it's him and like 12 other guys on stage, he just ruled the stage.
Yeah.
Because why? Because all those other guys, they had in their head, not figuratively or literally at that point in time, but figuratively in their head, they're going like, okay, my consultant told me I have to say, regarding the interstate pipeline,
right. And Trump was nothing like that. So first of all, I agree with you completely. But what started this was a conversation about Bob Onder. So my point would be, now to play contrarian here, Brad, I don't think anybody that listens to Bob Onder talk finds him to be boring. And also the fact that he's an older white guy, I mean, it would be easy to typecast him as being boring. I don't find anything he says to be boring. But is your point that he comes across as a generic milquetoast type candidate?
I'm not saying boring, because I have to be honest with you. When that day we talked about, and this is the interesting morning where we talked about that on the air. We remember this whole interesting situation. We called up Mark McCluskey, and he said he's going to be. He's going to be. It was a Friday morning. I remember it well, and he's going to be at the opening.
And you went to the Freedom Caucus rally.
The Freedom Caucus rally. Okay, out in St. Charles. Okay, and who do I run to? Jason Rosenbaum. He tells me listen all the time, which blew me away. Bob Onder got up, and this was when Bob Onder was still running for lieutenant governor. Bob Onder stood up there and gave a rousing speech. I mean, of all the people who spoke, and not to make fun of Tim Jones because he's on another radio station, but Tim Jones is a good presenter. He used to be the former Speaker of the Missouri House of Rep, but Bob Onder just knocked it out of the park.
Really good. He's really good.
I said this somewhat loudly, and a couple people around me laughed, and I go, CD3 at the time, because that was only a few days after
Luetkemeyer announced. Yeah.
Right, he announced that he wasn't going to run for another term. So I'm not saying that he's boring. I'm just saying that when you start parroting these stupid lines about when you send me to Congress, I'm going to blah 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 blah, and see, I personally have a problem with the fact that, do you think we could get Taylor Burks on the air? You think he'd come on the air with us?
Of course he would. Yeah.
Okay. I have a problem with the fact that both the other two candidates are essentially carpetbaggers. And
well, now hold on one second. Now, by the way, as you know well, out of fairness, if we have Taylor come on, the next day we should have MEC come on. The next day we should have Bob Onder come on.
But they won't come on, though.
Are you kidding, Brad? Of course they'd come on.
They won't come on. Because
how do you know?
Because we are BJ. We're Brad and John.
Hold on, Brad. Do you know the relationship that I have with them?
We have a station that's owned by a guy by the name of Egbert. We're not like one of the big wigs. But see. Here's my point being is that I'm saying I don't know what my point is anymore. Who knows? I don't know. I just think that's the wrong thing to say because of the fact that maybe I'm too close to politics. It would be like, it's sort of like your line that you said, matter of fact, I heard that one of our replay shows about when the Bear people came to St. Louis when they bought Monsanto, and one of their executives said, this isn't going to be another InBev, where they come in and they essentially, get rid of everybody. Essentially, the running joke was, they destroyed the local, management of Anheuser-Busch, because let's be honest, Anheuser-Busch is not run out of St. Louis anymore. They want to say it is, but it's not. The Anheuser-Busch planes are gone. There's nobody on the 9th floor there at one Busch place a whole bit. I just say you got to change it up. And see, why don't people listen? Why don't people learn from Donald Trump? Why don't they learn from the guy? I've never understood that. I mean,
because now, to be fair, a lot of candidates aren't secure enough to say what's actually on their mind.
Well, because
they're afraid of being criticized.
No, because
that's a lot of it too.
Because they have consultants tell them what to say.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. And there again, it goes back to the idea of when you're managing risk. The idea is so you pedestalize not making any mistakes instead of saying, what's the good of an opportunity? You say, what could possibly go wrong if I go on the air?
Yeah, but see, what happens is that that's the negative aspect of that. And to the point where, let's say, for example, let's say Bob Onder comes on 97.1 this afternoon and says, he thinks that Cottleville is setting the world afire with everybody having a golf cart. If you don't know this crazy thing, everybody, if you live in Cottleville, you have a golf cart. Everybody in Cottleville has a golf cart. Not, I'm being facetious, of course, but you see people driving up and down Highway N all the time. You see like the little shopping center there at N, across the street at St. Peter's, but on that side of the highway on Mid Rivers Mall, it's Cottleville. You see people going through the drive-through at Freddy's in a golf cart. Okay, so if Bob Onder comes on one day and says, I think that everybody in the world should have a golf cart, and I think we should get rid of these gas cars and everybody have a golf cart. Immediately, some people go, who the hell's he? But everybody would know, oh, is that the nutbag who wants everybody to drive a golf cart? Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Now, let me ask you this, though. As we think about having folks come on, I know we've dialed up, McCloskey for fun and Bill Eigel for fun. Do you want to start doing, I thought that we were going away from the direction of ever having people come on and chat. Would you be willing to have people come on the show and actually chat about their campaign?
John, I do that all day long. I mean, but here's the thing. I don't give the typical interviews. You've heard my interviews because of the fact.
Yeah, I know.
And what I try to be, and I'm not trying to say I'm in the class of a Howard Stern or somebody like that, but I don't, I've had this happen so many times through the years. When I have someone who is like a bigwig kind of person, their PR person calls me, and this is not all the time, but this is probably a good 60-70% of the time. And they said, "Can I have a list of the questions you're going to ask?" I said,
I know your answer.
My answer is I don't have a list.
I don't have a list.
I don't have a list.
Maybe when we come back, tell the story. You were going to do an appearance. Was it down at the Casino Queen, or what was the ship you were going to go on? And they wanted your questions ahead of time.
Yeah, well, that happens all the time,
Yeah.
And it's to the point where it's like, okay, you know what? I don't, and not only that, it's to the point where I'm the kind of guy that may say, hey. Do you ever eat at White Castle? You ever,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what people want people. Now, the interesting thing for Trump, here he is a multi-millionaire, a multi-billionaire, depending upon, if he's going to end up losing all his fortune in New York, having to forfeit all his money and his businesses in New York. He may be not a billionaire anymore, but the guy comes across as sort of an average guy, even though he couldn't be further from that. He has his, how many people, people talk about, I have my own private jet. Well, how many people have their own private 757 Boeing airliner?
Yeah, and maintain the common touch. Dine with kings and queens and maintain the common touch.
But see, that's the interesting aspect of him, is that he can go into a room and he can talk to the president of major corporations, and he can talk to a guy who is a plumber and just got, earlier that day just got done, snaking out 3 toilets and, went home, put on some clean clothes and went to the political rally and shook Donald Trump's hand. To me, that's the guy. He's one in a million, and people.
And what, to quote I know we're up against time here, Brad, to quote the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Dusty Rhodes, I've dined with kings and queens, and I slept in the alley eating pork and beans.
And he probably likes sleeping in the alley better, right?
He probably did. That's Dusty. That's Dusty.
Okay. We have to take a break. John's going to intersperse his. Here's the interesting thing. You've got John Combest, who's his political guru. You've got Jason Rosenbaum, who is this, excellent reporter and political guru. And they talk on the phone and they talk about wrestling. Wouldn't you love to listen in on that conversation?
And other folks who we shall not name are involved in the conversations too, Brad. They probably wouldn't want us to out them.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?